guys, and welcome to Odds on Champions League, last 16 round, first leg for the second week. We have Champions League, we have Dani Fisichella and Alvaro Romeo, of course, with us. So, guys, remember that we also want to know your opinion for these games. Remember, leave your comments and press the like and subscribe. Time for these 4 games. We didn't have that many goals, we have to say, in the first week of Champions League. Let's see in this one, because the first game is Eintracht Frankfurt, Napoli, and if we analyze the season, the whole season about Napoli, Dani, one thing is almost for sure, we are gonna see goals. We saw many goals in the group stages with Napoli, 20 goals scored, and also Eintracht is a very entertaining game. Can someone stop this Napoli right now, Dani?
Can I just be blunt? Napoli win 229. Yeah. I'm gonna put it straight right there.
100%.
I like it.
Napoli
100%.
win, and now I'm gonna explain it why. First of all, Napoli are just good. I think we just don't know the
best team in Europe. Best team in Europe right now.
Find me another one.
No debate.
No debate. So they're just good. All right. Maybe it helps that the 3 big best players they got, Osimhen, Kvaratskhelia, and Lobotka, didn't go to the World Cup. And they're talking about turnover, making turnover. What turnover do you need? They had a month and a half to rest. These are by far the 3 best players in Serie A, and they're proving it time and time again. All the stats suggest they are the good players. You know, they keep the ball very well. Napoli are the top scorer in Champions League with 20 goals, having played 1 game less than some players. They are the top scorer in Serie A with 56 goals, top assist in Serie A, top for shots. And, you know, there is a stats that is very interesting. The Serie A, amongst the top 5 leagues in Europe, is the ones with less dribbles attempted and less dribbles completed, apart from 1 player, Kvaratskhelia. Now, when people say Napoli have discovered Kvaratskhelia, no, Napoli, they haven't discovered Kvaratskhelia at all. They have given him a chance. They knew Kvaratskhelia was good. Ask the Swede, whose Kvaratskhelia scored 2 goals in the World Cup qualifiers to allow you guys to go to the World Cup. Kvaratskhelia was already there, but obviously they gave him a chance. Okay, enough of this. Osimhen in goal for 7 consecutive goals in Serie A. The goal against Sassuolo had an expected goals of 0.18. Look at the angles where he shoots. Kvaratskhelia, of course, scores. They kept going after scoring, and you know they are on course to end with more than 100 points this season, which, by the way, will be the record of Antonio Conte. Credit to Spalletti for changing them without changing their attacking style. They're younger, they're fitter, they take you on. They threaten you, and I think, okay, they play against a Frankfurt side, which, by the way, is also young. They're also galvanized. But last season, they finished 11 in the Bundesliga. Now they're 6. Napoli are top. Why shouldn't they go and win this one? As I said, Napoli win 229.
Alvaro, do you agree? I think it's very difficult to go against the odds and back Eintracht Frankfurt. We will stop after about Eintracht Frankfurt, but we were commenting, Dani and myself, in the previous video of Serie A that perhaps they could drop points against Sassuolo. No, it's impossible. This team is so reliable.
Yes, they are. And there is an element that I saw against Sassuolo, for example, that makes me think that this Napoli side already creates a lot of havoc and fear in Italian football. Maybe not in the Champions League yet, but for example, the other day, Kvaratskhelia scores a goal. And if you look at the Sassuolo defenders, especially Erlich and Ruan, they just don't tackle him. They just run backwards because that is the intimidation power of Kvaratskhelia right now. And then the goal of Osimhen the other day. I mean, I'm sorry, but this is not a mistake from the goalkeeper. This is something very special from the Nigerian striker, and a very similar goal to the one we saw in the Premier League from Seamus Coleman against Leeds United. Just a player who looks like he's gonna cross the ball. He takes the shot, and normally we tend to blame the goalkeepers for that, but I think that it's just a lapse of genius from the striker to do something like that. I mean, they are scoring plenty of goals, and in the Champions League, as Daniele said, they were the top scorers of the Champions League in the group stage without being the team that produces more shots at all. that tells you as well that Spalletti has created a system in which the strikers reach the right positions in the right time. So they don't attack just repeating plenty of attacking drills that they become repetitive but also predictable. No, not at all. Napoli only takes the real attack when it matters and when it counts. And that's why I think that they are right now the best team in Europe. I don't know if they are going to win the Champions League, possibly not. But for me, this season, they have been the best side in Europe. And we have to say this. Osimhen, by the way, isn't ready for the game because he was a little bit doubtful ahead of the game. But I think that he's ready. When it comes 100%. To... Yeah, 100%, exactly. When it comes to Frankfurt, look, they are very good in this kind of knockouts. We saw that in the Europa League last year. They are entertaining, that's for sure. They have had a great 18 months. And in the midfield, I like what they've got there with Kamada, with Kotze, with Lindstrom. They are actually capable of creating a lot of football too. And they have scored 42 goals in the Bundesliga in 21 games, which is something that happens in the Bundesliga a lot anyway. And there are many sides who are high-scoring sides. Then when it comes to Europe, well, maybe they decrease a little bit those numbers, but the approach is there. They are rather attacking. So, special as well mention to Kolo Muani, who has scored 10 goals and given 10 assists this season. But anyway, I'm going to back Napoli to win, as Daniele says. And, I can now go a little bit. I will say, if you want to be conservative, you can give, for example, an Asian handicap plus 0.25 for Napoli and keep that for your safe bet. But it looks like a no-brainer to me.
Actually, Kolo Muani, we saw him in the World Cup and he's scoring a lot. And we have to say, Dani, about Eintracht Frankfurt, that this is a better team than last season, at least domestically. They've been doing very good. Last season, They were very poor and focused in Europe and very competitive, we have to say. They are very close to the Champions League spots. And I think we shouldn't look them down.
No, absolutely. They only lost one game since the restart. Only lost at home this season to Borussia Dortmund and Sporting. They are very good from set pieces. They got a player like Kamada and Azebe that are also really good. They won at the weekend. They're a young side and they have improved since last season. But remember, last season they finished 11. Of course, in Europa League, they were really good. They didn't lose a single game last season in Europa League. Only 2 defeats in 19 games in Europe under Glasner. But they were also in the easiest group of the Champions League because it was the only group that didn't contain any domestic champions, Sporting, Spurs, and of course, Marseille. And none of these three teams are close to win the league.
Yeah, Daniele, you're right with that. There was no a favorite in that group, but at the same time, every game was difficult because... every away game.
It was very balanced. It was very balanced, but certainly they were seeded, and everyone wanted to play them. So they done exceptionally well. But they emerged from a group. Look at where Sporting is in the La Liga, third. Spurs are fifth. Marseille, I think, fourth or fifth. So none of them really gonna win the league this season, unlike Napoli.
Indeed, and domestically, as I said, especially playing at home, they've won the last 4 games at home in the Bundesliga, in the Champions League. They got 1 defeat at home, 1 draw, and 1 victory. It's also a team that they travel well. We saw it last season, also with so many fans. But this is a very important and special game, of course. We are not used to see Frankfurt in this stage of the Champions League or in the Champions League at all. And Napoli, they have a great chance to do big things also in Europe in a great season. For Spalletti's men, it looks like a very good bet going for Napoli somehow here. And the other game we have on Tuesday at Anfield, Liverpool, Real Madrid, the final of last season. So it's one of the best fixtures, of course, in this Champions League last 16 round. I would say that none of them are as good as the last season, for sure. Not Liverpool bouncing back in the last 2 games in the Premier League, Alvaro, with a good victory. In Newcastle, recovering some players for Jurgen Klopp. This is important. And Real Madrid traveling to Liverpool with Benzema doubtful, but recovering some feelings as well for Ancelotti's men, winning the last games and with confidence, I think, also helped by the head-to-head against Liverpool. Real Madrid has won the last games, very important ones against Liverpool.
Of course, I think that Real Madrid is right now in a better form than Liverpool. That said, it's an absolute pain that you finish first top in your group and then you have to play Liverpool in the last 16 round. I think that Real Madrid could have been a little bit luckier despite Liverpool's struggles this season. Liverpool is, by the way, favorite to win this game, but so far is not favorite to qualify. And, I don't agree completely with this. I don't think that Liverpool is even favorite to win this game. I think that this is going to be very level. All that said, this is the last chance for Liverpool to win a title. That's for sure. I don't even think that they are thinking in long term right now, like who is going to come out as a winner in Istanbul in June 2023. But yeah, it's true that Liverpool cannot win the Cups this year anymore. They cannot win the Premier League. The Champions League is the only thing they have left, apart from qualifying for Champions League 23-24. It's true that in the last couple of weeks, especially since the win against Everton last Monday, Liverpool has regrouped some morale and some players as well, because Diogo Jota and Roberto Firmino and Virgil van Dijk are back. Virgil van Dijk, in fact, he started in his game the other day against Newcastle United. A rather easy game for Liverpool because Newcastle was very good at the beginning of the game, but Liverpool scored 2 goals by the 20th minute, and then Nick Pope, Newcastle goalkeeper, got sent off, and then it was one-way traffic for Liverpool. Darwin Núñez could not be in contention because he's got a shoulder injury, but as I said, Diogo Jota and Roberto Firmino are there to deputize for the Uruguayan. The question for me with Liverpool is who is going to be the third midfielder? Is it going to be Milner? Is it going to be Keita? Is it going to be Oxlade-Chamberlain? Spoiler, I really don't think so. Is it going to be Bajcetic, the Spanish player who has been starting lately? I want to see that because Real Madrid midfielder can be very energetic. With Fede Valverde, Camavinga, Ceballos even, they can be very energetic, and Liverpool will have to think about that because this season they have been overrun and outmuscled with energy by their opponents in midfield. So let's see who plays over there. It's true that Liverpool is recovering, but at the same time Real Madrid is in a better place right now because they are world champion, because lately they have been in a good form, and because they have the player who is, in my opinion, the best player in La Liga, Vinicius, and one of the best 3 or 5 players in the world. He's incredible. I mean, he's on his own doing so many things. He's got such an autonomy and the wilderness as well. This is something that I like about Vinicius, that he's still raw talent and he has fuel in his tank until the 90th minute of the game, and he tries and tries and tries, and he's going to be an absolute pain for Trent Alexander-Arnold as he was in the Champions League final because he scored against him in the second post. So let's see what Real Madrid is doing. I think Real Madrid is capable of adjusting their level to the challenge they've got in front of them. This is Real Madrid. The defense of course, is going to be or has to be on top of their game because the defense of Real Madrid in La Liga hasn't been great, but I think that they can improve. So I'm going to go for a double chance for Real Madrid, 165. Vinicius to score or assist, I love it because it pays 2.4. And both teams to score, of course, I like it to 1.6. These are my 3 favorite odds for this fixture.
Are you also that optimistic for Real Madrid, Dani? We saw Vinicius, by the way, for instance, last season in the Etihad doing a great game, and I think this kind of football suits the Brazilian really to harm in the counter.
I think Liverpool this year that they play for nothing. I mean, they got no objectives apart from top 4 finish and the Champions League. They could be very dangerous because they could become a team for big nights. You know, we saw them, they won against Napoli when it mattered. And, you know, it is a team that is full of talent. They had some issues this season, especially linked with injuries, but they could motivate themselves and they could raise the level during the big nights. Recently, they've been okay. The 2 wins against Everton and Newcastle are wins that you would expect them to achieve. But obviously, considering how bad they were in the previous 7 games, you know, this is quite something. The problem on Liverpool, I think, come to the fact that some of the players that maybe they were not supposed to play so many games, like Bajcetic, already, for example, played 20 games this season. And Bajcetic is a good prospect, but I think no one thought he was going to be so involved. It's linked to injuries. Konate only played 10 games. Diaz has not played since October when they beat Rangers. Thiago is unavailable. Jota missed the World Cup, now is coming back. Probably is the most important of the attackers. Firmino need to be given a few minutes. Van Dijk was back recently after injury. So obviously a lot of changes. They've never seen Artur Melo for example. So this is what has really hindered Liverpool, if you like, and the fact that Darwin Núñez took time to adjust, but he has had chances, and I'm sure he will come good. So it will be a Cody Gakpo. So it's going to be difficult for Real Madrid to get a win here, at least. The problem with Liverpool, as we know, they've been defensively. This season, they've already conceded 28 goals in the Premier League. Last season, they finished with 26. Collectively, they defended not very well. But I wonder, when there is this sort of games and the teams raise the level, if defenses are going to come on top again. It kind of reminds me when we were looking at the World Cup, especially the group stages, where the level is very, very similar. There were a lot of unders, a lot of both to score no. And, maybe defenses might come on top again. Let's not forget about how good the keepers were, how good Courtois was in the final last year. So I don't expect quite a goal fest at the moment, but I'm going to go for under 2.75 goals, which pays 2.02, which means if there are 3 goals, you lose only half your stake. If there are only 2 goals, you win 2.02 in a game that, as I agree with Alvaro, is going to be very, very close.
Because the bookies actually expect goals, we always check the 2.5 goals market. Under 2.5 goals pays way better. It pays 2.2 and over 1.7. So obviously the bookies expect goals.
And so far, in the 20 games, in the 20 knockout games so far of Champions League, Europa League, and Conference League, the trend is under. 15 out of 20 games have been under 2.5. 16 out of 20 games have been both to score. No, completely different from last season, which were most of them over. So you can't really take into account. But normally, this game, when the level goes up, be close.
I don't know, Dani. That's the thing, that I think that we don't have enough sample test to reach conclusions yet. Because, for example, in the group stage, it's true that the average goal tally was 3.1, but there were teams like Victoria Pilsenia, of course.
Rushed.
But last season in the Champions League, remember Real Madrid-Chelsea, Real Madrid-Manchester City, those games had a lot of goals as well. So I really don't think that we are ready yet to draw a conclusion about how the goal tally is going to be.
And actually, Ancelotti took a very cautious approach to the game in Paris against PSG, and Real Madrid won and played awfully. And Benzema was absent, but then Real Madrid played much more offensive football against Chelsea and against Man City. Alvaro was saying that Liverpool, they are favorite to win this game, 2.4, Real Madrid 3.5. We shouldn't underestimate the magic of Anfield, that is for sure. But for the tie, Real Madrid, they are favorites, 1.8 to qualify. Liverpool, 2.1. Very balanced. But, of course, great game at Anfield. The 2 finalists of last year, they are back. The head-to-head, by the way, as I mentioned at the beginning, is really favorable for Real Madrid in the last 6 games between these 2 teams. 5 victories for Real Madrid, 1 draw for Liverpool. It was at Anfield, actually, in the pandemic season, but Real Madrid qualified for the next round. And on Wednesday, we have 2 more games. Dani Fisichella should be nervous because we have Inter back to the knockout stages of the Champions League. We saw them last season against Inter, for instance. We have against Liverpool, we have Inter Porto, with Inter winning, and even Lukaku scoring a goal, a penalty. He had to take the penalty twice, but at the end, he scored. Daniel, Inter, they are in a good streak in the Serie A, even if they are far from Napoli, but they are keeping the consistency, even with some problems as against Sampdoria, for instance, or Empoli at home. I think the bookies place them as favorites, and we should place them as favorites, but be careful with this Porto.
The Inter had their struggles recently. Even the game against Udinese at the weekend, they won 3-1, but the score sheet looks much more comfortable for what actually the game was. Inter came close to lose it in the second half, but then managed to score once Inzaghi put in Lautaro, and Çalhanoğlu, who were initially rested. He made a few changes. Inzaghi played without Onana, without Skriniar, and the two players I mentioned before, because obviously he's targeting this game. And this is a bit of a conundrum for Inter and for Inzaghi, because Napoli is doing so well this season, and Inter have got 6 points less compared to last season. This game, that when the groups were drawn, would have been seen as a bonus, because Inter really had targeted. They knew it was very difficult to qualify from the group with Barcelona and Bayern Munich, and they kind of forecasted finishing third. But now they got this game against Porto. But out of a sudden, because they're playing for nothing in the league, this becomes like the most important game of the season. Whereas in reality, initially, it shouldn't be. However, Inter, of course, considering the form they've had at home recently and how well they beat top sides, they win 1-0 against Barcelona, against Napoli, against Milan, against Atalanta. So against the top side, they've been really consistent at home. I can understand why they're favorites. But against small teams, they've been inconsistent, they've struggled, they have poses. And if they do show the same lack of composure and lack of focus that they had against Udinese for 20-25 minutes, I think they're going to be in real trouble here. The problem for Inter is that sometimes they are very rigid. They are a little bit predictable. I know Inzaghi loves his 3-5-2 formation. He never changes it. He's never changed it in the last 5 years. And then obviously the regrets grow for not having signed in the summer a player like Dybala, who could sparkle something. But now, obviously with Lukaku not in great form, although he's in contention, whether is he going to start or Dzeko is going to have, he's having a bit of a dip physically. Brozovic started the first game since October against Udinese, was not in great form. So Inzaghi got a few doubts really to solve, but careful with Porto, of course, a technical side, a side that can battle through, they can make it ugly, take a lot from the manager, Conceição, a lot of fighting spirit. Also Porto are not been brilliant recently, but they're obviously closer to Benfica, to what Inter are, to Napoli. It's difficult, this one, for Inter, I think. They've been winning the big games 2-0, but recently, as I said, they have been, I'm not 100% convinced about also the way how fit some of the players are. Both to score, 199, and if you're going to look for a goal scorer, Lautaro already scored 16. He's fired up. I mean, he came back from the World Cup really, really fired up. He's a streaky striker. I would rather go for him rather than Lukaku to score. Anyway, Inter Porto, both to score 199.
He scored the last goal against Udinese, a good goal after missing another chance just minutes before. And be careful also with Porto, Alvaro. Since the World Cup, they've won every single game apart from one draw in the domestic Portuguese league. Do you see Inter this favorite with odds 2.0 also to qualify? Inter is very favorite.
The thing is that I rate both sides. So if I say that I don't see Inter very favorite, I don't mean that I disrespect them in any sort of way. But I think that Porto has been one of the difficult sides in the Champions League lately. Just going back to Lautaro for a second, Edu, you were mentioning him. I would like to have an odd, existing odd, could be something like Lautaro missing a big chance and scoring 2 minutes later. I mean, I could go for that one, because the other day his chip before he scored was ridiculous. Daniele, you remember that one?
No, I know. Against Udinese, he missed it. But, that's what's good about Lautaro. He keeps going. He'll be on you. And the way he uses his body to move the defender, to move Jacob. I mean, Lautaro is 1.70 m. Jacob Biol is almost 2 meters. And Lautaro, by the way, is one of the greatest header of the ball. 1.70 meter, by the way. Anyway.
The size of his forehead helps a little bit.
Well, he does.
Probably. He's got a big head.
Yeah, but I know.
No. Jokes aside, he's a good striker, of course. And, he's looking very, 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 very good right now. And I could say that Henry Mkhitaryan as well is looking good, Daniele.
Great goal.
I mean, scoring goals and all that. Inter has been unbeaten for a while now, 5 games unbeaten. And Inter, to me, apart from that little lack that Daniele flags, the creativity up front, well, they look good to me, and they've got depth in the squad. I mean, you just have to check their bench against last Saturday against Udinese to realize that, there are good players in there. When it comes to Porto, the thing is that, they are so competitive that Benfica is doing the season of the decade, probably, in Portugal. And Porto is only 2 points away, even though we have to say that Benfica has a game in hand. And Porto has, right now, a 22 games unbeaten run. A run that also includes Champions League football, because let's don't forget that they started the group stage very badly, and then they won the last 4 games. So, they are doing a good job in the Champions League. They are doing a good job this season. And Benfica is the only thing that waters down a little bit the good this season they are doing. For this game, they will be a little bit depleted. This could be a problem because Otavio is out, important player. And I think that Uribe, Galeno, Evanilson will be doubtful for this game. And the best players this season, they have been, in my opinion, Taremi and Eustáquio. Those two are going to be on the pitch. Look, I think that this tie is going to be competitive. I would love to see Inter in the quarterfinals of the Champions League because they haven't been there since 2011 with Rafa Benitez, I remember. And last season, I have the feeling that they sorry?
With Leonardo, Rafa Benitez had been sacked.
Leonardo, sorry. Yeah, you're right, Daniele, you're right. But last season, I felt sorry for Inter because they were very good against Liverpool. They scored that goal at Anfield, and then Alexis Sanchez was sent off 2 minutes later. So I think that they are a competitive side, but Porto too. So I'm going to go for the following. An Asian handicap plus 0.25 for Porto in the first half, meaning that if the Porto wins the first half, you win it. And if they draw the first half, you get half a win.
Okay, back in Porto, somehow Dani is going for both teams to score. Under pays better, 1.89, under 2.5 goals. Over 2.09. I don't expect a real goal feast, to be honest. And these teams met last time was 2005, a long time ago, but these are 2 classics of the Champions League. Inter Porto, a very balanced
and Conceição, former Inter player, 46 games, 1 goal. Not the greatest Portuguese we had at Inter.
And well, Porto, remember that they started the Champions League season with a harsh defeat at home, 4-0 against Bruges, but they bounced back, and here they are in the knockout stages. And the last game we have to analyze. On Wednesday, we have RB Leipzig, Man City. Well, this if the other ones we think they are going to be very balanced, especially Liverpool, Real Madrid, or Inter Porto. Here, of course, Man City, they are big favorites also to win this game, 1.84. But I would say be careful because Leipzig, they are a better team in the second part of the season. Alvaro, we've been seeing getting great results in the Bundesliga, climbing up the table. They changed the manager. They have Marco Rose, but even in the Champions League, they made good performances, especially at home against Real Madrid, but also away. And this Man City, usually in the big nights, they always show up. But we have more doubts, I think, this season than the previous ones.
I do. I definitely do. Because this season, Manchester City hasn't been capable of producing these long winning runs that eventually make them run away with the title. They are not capable of that. And I really wouldn't be surprised with any scenario in this game. I know that this is a little bit of a safe cushioning for me, but I really wouldn't, because I have seen Manchester City just negotiating these rounds easily in the past, but also like, suddenly encountering a problem and seeing themselves out of the competition, like against Olympique Lyon, for example, or many other bad nights of Pep Guardiola's Manchester City. Every scenario is possible, so I'm going to go for some alternatives markets that I will break down right now. But when it comes to Leipzig, we have to say they've got plenty of attacking talent, and Marco Rose has forgotten about the back 3 and he's playing with the back 4, and the likes of Nkunku, especially Szoboszlai lately, Timo Werner, Silva, they can actually inflict pain. And some of the most beautiful counter-attacking team goals we have seen in the group stage were scored by RB Leipzig. So they are not going to be easy. They can counter-attack very well, for example. And in the weekend, they beat Wolfsburg easily. The only caveat for them is that Dani Olmo is out, but I think that Szoboszlai is doing so well that nobody right now is lamenting too much that Dani Olmo is not ready for this game. And Gulaxi, the classic goalkeeper of Leipzig, is out for the rest of the season. But other than that, look, there is a stat that I love here, and it's pointing me a little bit in the direction of the goals market. The fact that Leipzig has never been involved in a goalless draw in the Champions League. and they have played already 36 games in the Champions League. So normally this is a team that entertains, but let the other side score goals as well. A game in Germany can be difficult out of the blue for anybody, and also for Manchester City, who drew against Nottingham Forest in the weekend. A Manchester City that, after the mess against Tottenham, when Pep Guardiola didn't play Kevin De Bruyne, Gundogan together, Pep Guardiola, since that game, he's fielding four midfielders: Bernardo, Gundogan, Kevin De Bruyne, and Rodri. You know, Pep Guardiola is going back to some of his basics because Manchester City looked very poor against Tottenham. And even since then, Manchester City hasn't lost. But at the same time, the other day, the draw against Nottingham Forest was disappointing. I think they should have won the second half. They couldn't. And then Chris Wood scored the equalizer. You know, Manchester City can suffer this season. And they've got a goal scorer like Haaland who can score. So, as I said before, it's a little bit maybe silly from me to say, but every scenario is quite open here. So I'm going to go for the following. Maybe a double chance for Manchester City, x2 and over 2.5 goals in the game. That pays 2.1. I'm doing a combined thing here. Or Erling Haaland to score, plain and simple. That pays 183. So those could be my bets. Crossing my fingers and hoping that there are goals in this game.
He missed a real clear chance against Nottingham Forest that he usually doesn't miss. Dani, if something looks granted in this game, is goals. Alvaro highlighted also the top scorer and the players with a lot of class that Leipzig has also in the squad.
Because Leipzig is not only very good at the counter-attack with the pace of course, Nkunku, Jobolzai, Simakan at the right back, but they're also very good at playing in open play. They use the wide areas of the pitch really well. They create space on the wide areas, and then the likes of Forsberg, Jobolzai, they can cut inside and, of course, either shoot or give the ball into the channels for Nkunku. Nkunku, by the way, who was on the bench against Wolfsburg, played in the second half. Yeah. Last season was the player of the season in the Bundesliga with 35 goals. We saw him, his value. And all these players alongside, of course, Jobolzai and Werner, they've been rejuvenated by the appointment of Marco Rose, also Andre Silva. Of course, they only lost 2 games since Rose is in charge, and if they hadn't started the season so poorly, they will really be a challenger for Bayern Munich. Perhaps where Leipzig could improve is the defense. You know, they do concede quite a lot from set pieces. They conceded 13 in the Bundesliga, but no doubt about it, they are a team that can score goals. So can City. I know against Nottingham Forest, it was criminal not to win after having 23 shots, but they beat Arsenal 3 days before, and they beat Arsenal having only 37% of the ball, but being really, really clinical, really effective, and being really good at finishing, really making most of the Arsenal mistakes. But in the second half, you know, when they flex the muscles, Guardiola changed the formation, put Akanji as a left back, they looked more stable, and, you know, the finishing was really good. The thing is with Manchester City is that they've been inconsistent, as Alvaro said. Yes, they have never been in a very long winning run. And obviously, they do concede more goals. They conceded 24 goals now. Last season in the entire Premier League, they conceded 26. They lost 3 of the last 8. And away from home, they dropped 15 points compared to 11 to last season. So they've been inconsistent because I think as a collective, they've not been very good at defending, and they've not kept the ball as well and as fast as they did in previous season. Conceded also in 6 out of the last 7 away games, Man City. This is going to be tricky. This is probably the most difficult for me to pick. I'm going to go for goals. Over 2.75 goals, 198. So if there are only 3 goals, you win half a stake. But yeah, full-time result, really, an Asian handicap. These one are really, really tricky to bet on.
And Leipzig, they've been very good this season at home. They lost the first game at home in the Bundesliga the other day against Union Berlin. We saw them losing unexpectedly against Shakhtar Donetsk, but usually they are very good when they are playing at home. The thing is that this season, there is no clear favorite for me to the Champions League. We saw already 4 games in the previous week, not even Bayern Munich or PSG that are big favorites. To me, they are really scary, and we are saying exactly the same. I think in these games we have this week, perhaps Napoli, even, but we have to see them performing under pressure against Frankfurt.
Yeah, Edu, only one thing. I think that Real Madrid, nothing justifies that Manchester City to win the Champions League pays 2.5 and Real Madrid pays 12, as it happened last week. I don't think that it justifies. I think Real Madrid has all the makings and all the players to win the Champions League again. I'm not saying they are favorites, but they are as favorites as last year. Maybe Benzema is not having a season as good as the previous ones. But look at Rodrigo, for example. Look at Asensio and Ceballos and players like these, fringe players who are stepping up. I think Real Madrid are going to be one of the difficult ones, really, again.
Let's see, because Anfield, of course, is a big test. Let me know in the comment section which team do you back to win the Champions League after watching the 4 games we watched the previous week, and of course the ones that we have ahead of us. Dani, let's finish the video with your safe bet.
Napoli Asian handicap 0 in the first half, 169.
I'm not surprised. We love Napoli odds. Alvaro?
Porto Napoli. Asian handicap plus 0.25 for Napoli. 1.5.
Who doesn't like Napoli this season with Spalletti and Dani Lloraca?
Eintracht Frankfurt Napoli over 1.5 goals. Liverpool Real Madrid 1x double chance. Inter Porto over 1.5 goals. And Leipzig Manchester City both team to score. Put it all together 421.
I didn't like this double chance for Liverpool. Alvaro Lloraca?
Don't forget that my double chance for that game was the opposite one.
Exactly.
But anyway, my ACCA is this one. Asian handicap plus 0.25 for Napoli. Asian handicap plus 0.25 for Real Madrid. Napoli to score over 1.5 goals in the game. Total 549.
Good luck to everyone. Thanks, Dani. Thanks, Alvaro. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Don't forget, press the like, subscribe, and see you soon. Bye-bye.
Ciao.